Today's Mercedes-Benz interview of the day brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Luxury SUVs now come with a luxury of choice. Learn more about the E-Class SUVs at your local dealer or MBUSA.com/special offers. He's special to us. He's Jim Jackson, Fox Turner NBA analyst, and the 4th overall pick by the Mavs in 1992. Take me back to the Dream Team. Leitner got the spot on the roster. Shaq was up for it. Zoe was up for it. You were up for this.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to try out for the Dream Team?
No. Let me take you back further. So the year before, we had the Pan Am Games down in Cuba, coached by Gene Cady. Grant Hill was on the team. It was Kristen Leitner, myself, Tracy Murray, Walt Williams, a bunch of us, right? Adam Keefe back in the day. So during that time, we had a really good team. I got hurt going into the medal round. And I was the leading scorer for the team. So I got hurt. So I didn't get a chance to play. I think it was Puerto Rico we lost to. So we ended up getting the bronze. So in my mind, I'm like, I had a little stress fracture in my foot. And my coach Randy Ayers at the time at Ohio State was like, you're not playing. You're done. Forget about it. I'm like, okay, whatever. The Olympics is next year. I'm good to go. The Olympics are there. Fast forward, boom, Dream Team comes. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're going all pro. And then they're like, so I'm trying to look at the roster. And I'm like, well, they got a lot of big men already with Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing and David Robinson, Barkley. It's not that they're not going to take another big man. Got to be a guard. So I'm thinking in my mind, trying to give myself an opportunity to get there, but unfortunately, it wasn't. It was Christian. Now, Christian at the time, he was AP Player of the Year. I was UPI Player of the Year. He had all the accolades, one of the best college players ever. So, you can't really be too mad at that aspect because he did have the pedigree with regards to being selected. But it was tough at that time, and I thought I had a really good shot at being on the squad.
Coach K was on the committee, too, which helped Leitner a little bit. Yeah, but Isaiah Thomas had a little bit more of a beef that he got snubbed.
Of course. Oh, yeah, because of the John Stockton thing. But it's never – what's fair? Think about it, man. It's always something in some kind of selection process, even if you go and you try out. My sophomore year – it was a Goodwill Games, and first time I ever got cut, Coach K was the coach. I made it to the final round. We got a theme here, don't we, Dan? We got a theme here. And I told Coach K about this later on. I said, I'm still mad at you about this. But I thought I played really well and didn't make the team. And I was just scratching my head like, how could I not make – I got cut. I never got cut in my life. And that, that just showed me that, sometimes a fit works better than the other. But I thought Isaiah's was just a detriment to the game of basketball. It's no way. But that had to do more with he wasn't as liked by, of course, Michael and Scotty and maybe Charles at the time. I don't know. But that whole thing.
Okay. What is factoring in with Caitlin Clark not making the women's Olympic roster in your mind?
Maybe all the noise around the season at the beginning, kind of the vitriol going back and forth. All of that, I think, played a role into, now I can't say that for sure, but being around the game and being around committees, being around sports, it's like, do we want to carry this baggage here? What if she doesn't play, if she's not playing as much? How much pressure is that on the coaching staff, on USA Basketball? A lot of that. But at the end of the day, too, it goes back to it's a lot of women who played this game that deserve to be on the team, okay, that have fought extremely hard to get this opportunity to play. And for one not to be able to do it because you want to implant Caitlin Clark for the future, that's kind of unfair. Again, it goes back to that word fair, unfair again. And I think it was so much noise around Caitlin Clark that I think the committee made a decision to pass on what would come with it if Caitlin didn't play, if Caitlin didn't do this. You know what I mean? And one way or the other, it was going to cause some kind of controversy. Because think about if she was on and she got put on before another young lady who's been there. Think about the vitriol that comes from that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tricky. You
It is.
can say put her on because she's grown the sport. She has a great resume.
Yep.
Or you can say she's not one of the 12 best players right now in the WNBA, which is that would be my opinion. She's not one of the 12 best, but do I want to grow the game? Like, I don't want to be short-sighted on this because we've seen eyeballs on the WNBA. Can we take advantage of that? Is that part of what the Olympic Committee should be doing?
Well, part of it should be, you think about it, the committee from the perspective, you put the 12 best players together, flat out. That's the job. But we all know from a political perspective, it's not always the case. We talked about that with the Dream Team. Okay, that is not always the case with regards to putting the 12 best players together. It's never been like that. It's always been something in there. And that's a choice that the WNBA had to make, and that's the quandary that they were faced with. I can imagine leading up to it, the number of knockdown conversations that one side had this plausible cause to why Caitlin should be there. The other side had this on why she shouldn't. Okay, and at the end of the day, I think they took the path of least resistance, which was we can always fall back on Caitlin has a lot of time. She's a rookie. She'll be able to play, 4 years from now. She's not one of the 12 best players as of yet, but the marketing push for the WNBA is still going to be there during the regular season to promote the Indiana Fever, more importantly, Caitlin Clark.
Talking to Jim Jackson, Fox Turner NBA analyst, played 14 seasons in the NBA. If Dan Hurley asked your opinion this morning, should I stay or should I go, you would say?
If you want to be in the NBA, yes. Is it with the Lakers? I would say think hard. What's the long-term, what's the short-term outlook for you as a coach? Because here's the thing, the Lakers, Knicks, Celtics, those are the three premium jobs. We know that. You got the Bulls behind it, then, Philadelphia and so on. It's a lot of pressure that comes with it. Yeah, you're getting paid $10 million plus dollars a year, 8 years, whatever it may be. But the expectation is to win now. Ask Darvin Ham. Okay? Expectation is to win now. I don't care what they say. You got a short window of opportunity with LeBron James and then Anthony Davis. Is it that you need to win now, a year or two, or are we building something out for the next 7, 8 years of your contract on how we're going to get our organization back to a preeminent spot where we're competing for a championship? I think that's very important. Now, you can take the quick hit and get the money, but you can get the money too, I think, maybe at UConn. Now, the landscape, you got to keep this in mind, Dan. The landscape of college basketball or college sports has changed. You're basically now in a pro system within the confines of NCAA. The only difference is when you're dealing with the NBA, you don't have to go out and raise money. You don't have to go out and speak. You don't have to do all these other things outside of dealing with the board, the president at that university. You have to deal with the GM and you have to deal with the ownership in NBA. But that's what you're doing in college. So what are your expectations? What's the franchise expectations? And I think the Lakers gig with LeBron James, it's a tough gig for any coach, let alone a coach that hasn't spent time in the NBA.
Well, I wonder, is it advantageous to have LeBron on the roster? Like if you're Dan Hurley and you're thinking about this and they're looking at big picture and LeBron's going to be there for 2 more years, do I have to then, we're taking Bronny James. Does he factor into this as well? Anthony Davis's future, the expectations. You had a coach who went to the Western Conference Finals and the next year gets fired. The West is stacked. So is it a plus having LeBron there if you're Dan Hurley to take this job?
It's a plus. It's a catch-22 because you want the best players to be on your team, and LeBron is still one of the best. But it's a certain amount of gravity that comes with that. If you get on the bad side of LeBron and he doesn't have to verbally say it, then there's some consequences to that. But just like with any superstar of a team, because it's a level of control that Dan Hurley's used to having in college, where he can select his roster. He understands which transfers to go get. He understands which freshmen to go recruit. Are you going to have some kind of roster control? Are you going to be able to pick your own staff? See, that was that was a big issue too. I remember when Ty Lue, and I do games for the Clippers, when he had an opportunity to be a coach there, he interviewed, and it was before Frank Vogel. One of the big things was 1 3-year deal compared to other coaches getting a 5-year deal. The more important part too with that is that the Lakers wanted to pick his coaching staff. And Ty Lue was like, hold up. Or any coach that won a championship would be like, hold up, I've won a championship. I should have control over my coaching staff. And do you have a voice in the room with roster construction? Because you think about this, when Frank Vogel was there, they changed the roster, brought in Russell Westbrook and some other players. That didn't fit how Frank Vogel coached. That wasn't his. So he was forced to coach a roster that didn't fit. So as a coach now, you're behind the 8 ball. What do? You're trying to put these, round sockets into a square hole, knowing they don't fit. And then at the end of the day, whose fault is it? It's the coach. So it's a lot bigger decision, and a lot more goes into it when you're with the Lakers, man.
Is the Mavs situation fixable in the finals?
Well, you just can't go get more talent. You can't do it at this point. I mean, Dan, you've been around this to know this. It's all about matchups.
Yeah, but they got here with that talent.
Yeah, but matchups, okay? Matchups. Playing against Minnesota is different than playing against the Celtics. Why? Minnesota had Anthony Edwards that can beat you off the dribble. Every now and then, Mike Conley could get it. But that was it. So when the ball was sprayed around, you didn't have Nickeil Walker-Alexander or Jay McDaniels beating you off the dribble, forcing you to help and out kicking it. Boston, when you put Kristaps in there, has 5 players on the court that when the ball rotates, you close out, they drive you, you try to stop them, they kick it, they drive it again. And they can either make a play for their teammates or make a shot. That's the challenge that the Mavericks have facing this iteration of the Boston Celtics, is that you can't take everything away. So that's why I say it goes back to matchups. Minnesota matched up better with Denver. Dallas matched up better with Minnesota. But this is a tough defensive matchup for the Mavericks versus the Celtics.
If the Celtics win, who gets MVP?
Well, right now it looks like Jaylen Brown. And not just because what he's doing offensively. I think defensively he has an impact on the game. And I'll give a shout out to Jason Tatum for a level of maturity as well, because then this, it's a lot of pressure being in Boston and being the guy. He's not shooting the ball particularly well. But he said throughout the course of the season that he's focused on the team aspect of what we need to do to win. And you can kind of see that in his deference at times in the game to give it up to Derek White, to give it up to Jaylen Brown, to Drew Holiday, and not overly force some – he's going to pour some shots. That's just who he is, and that's what superstars do. But he's not hanging his head because you know why? Then they're winning. And he's matured. He understands that if he wants to walk in a room with the rest of the greats, having one of those things on his finger gives him the key to that door.
I remember the first time I went to the Boston Garden. It was 1983, I think. And I remember seeing it on TV. And I thought, God, it looks so gorgeous, the parquet floor. And then I got to the floor and I go, damn, this thing's all banged up. And, there's gashes in it. There's pieces of the wood taken out.
Uh-huh.
What did you think when you first saw the Boston Garden, the original?
Hold up. Have you seen the locker rooms?
I did. I was in the Lakers locker room when they won the title.
Bro, it was
high school locker rooms were. I can't even call that a locker room, Jim.
No, bro. It was a room with some chairs
and some hooks.
Banged up. Here was a great part about the locker room. you didn't know whether the shower was going to be hot or cold, or if you were going to have some friends running around to join you in the shower, some little rodents running around. You had no idea. So they controlled you from that. And then, okay, you see that. Then you go to the court. The court was put in pieces because of the parquet. So you had those little screws that were in the court. So that's why guys would go in, and I know I did, you would try to find the dead spots because they were there. As beautiful in the aura of what it was a...
You can say it.
No, I can't say it. I can't say it. But it was, the nostalgic of being in the Garden was awesome. I mean, was just you just felt history. But man, the mechanics of it and the underworkings of it, man, it was tough, bro. I mean, you would hit the ball and you would hear it go boom because it wouldn't bounce back up.
And the Celtics knew there were certain spots on the floor that if they doubled you, that there were dead spots on the floor. Like they were trying to use it to their advantage. But I remember somebody put a roll of quarters in between two pieces of parquet because there was that much room in between the spaces between. I went, damn, this thing, it looks a whole lot better on TV than it does in person.
But a lot of those older, I remember playing in Chicago. I got a chance to play in all the old stadiums except for Phoenix, because American Airlines came in 92. So I didn't get a chance to play in the Coliseum, I think it was. I played in Market Square. I played in Hemisphere. I played in Washington, the Bulls. You go downstairs underneath, Madhouse on Madison. The Forum, of course. And all of them had their different quirks because they were just older buildings. You felt good about going in, especially the nostalgia of a lot of them. But, man, I look at these locker rooms now in these stadiums, and I'm like, are you kidding? The practice facilities are better, which it should be. But I think that gave it a little some kind of nostalgia, to a younger player coming in, seeing these old buildings and playing in them and just reliving some sort of a little history through the eyes of a young 22, 23-year-old guy.
No, I couldn't wait to shoot at Boston Garden. It was awesome.
You know what I did? When we played at the Spectrum, I grew up a Dr. J fan, a Philly fan, Sixer fan. I went to the spot where Doc took off on Cooper with the rock to cradle.
But
so
you didn't take off from there, did you?
Oh, no, I didn't take off. I've seen the place so many times. Yeah. And this is the beautiful thing about an old building that has history. It's places, moments that you see in your mind. So when I got there, I envisioned the other side of the court. There was Doc coming down, Hooper's trying to get back, and he takes off. But also, when Doc did the reverse layup on the Lakers behind the rim. See, that you can't get because the history tells the story, and you try to go relive it as a young player in those old buildings. I mean, unbelievable. In the Forum, just doing the fast break with Magic Johnson to Byron Scott or to Cooper Loop. You know what I mean? Those moments, man, as raggedy as some may be, it's still a beautiful thing when you're caught up into that history.
Always great to catch up with you. Thank you, Jim.
Always, Dad. I appreciate it, my friend. Enjoy Game 3.
That's Jim Jackson, Fox Turner NBA analyst and 14-year veteran in the NBA. Take a break. Close up shop after this.